Yeah, okay. Okay, so today we'll be looking at this topic of combinatorics. So usually in the high school level, you might have seen some cute combinatorics problem. So we'll begin with that and slowly we'll increase the level of the questions. And even these kind of questions are also quite helpful. Be it like say if you want to go for research, even there also these things are quite helpful. And even if you go for some jobs in quant profile or some other things, there also these things come in handy. Yeah. So let's see if time permits. I'll try to cover more questions. Otherwise, yeah, I have some 4 or 5 questions in mind. So we'll keep this interactive, so it won't be like just me speaking out and you listening. Yeah. So the first problem is quite easy. So say if you have a equilateral triangle of length 1, like its side length is 1, and you like say sprinkle 5 points within the equilateral triangle, then there is at least one pair of points such that their distance is at most half. So so this is the question. It's written on the screen also. So can someone try to come up with a solution for this? So maybe let's say I got a feedback last time that sufficient time was not given for thinking. So this question won't require more than a minute. So okay, so when I say you can speak out, then you can start speaking out. So let me just keep the timer. Yeah, just think for a minute. Even if you get the solution, don't speak out before I ask you to. Yeah, so if someone has come up with a solution, they can speak out now.
We can actually join all the corresponding midpoints to divide the equilateral triangle into 4 parts, 4 regions, and
Yeah, yeah.
then by pigeonhole principle, 2 points must lie in one of the regions, so the distance would be less than half.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the solution. So so just write it formally. So if you have an equilateral triangle and if you look at the midpoints and connect them, then you'll form 4 smaller equilateral triangles, and distance between any two such like the side length of each such equilateral triangle is half. So due to pigeonhole principle, there will be one such triangle such that you have 2 points in it. And then in an equilateral triangle, distance between 2 points is maximized if they are placed along the vertices. So these two lengths will be less than half, or at most half, I mean, yeah. So that's this
Which
small proof.
principle? Which principle did you talk about, Arnab, right now?
The guy who gave the solution, it's pigeonhole principle. So what pigeonhole principle is nothing but like, so you have, say you have, say you have 4 boxes. Okay, say I'm just giving an example. and you have 5 pigeons. Okay. And you want to keep the pigeon in one of the boxes. So just you can observe that one of the pigeons should contain at least two. One of the box should contain at least 2 pigeons because there are less number of boxes and more number of pigeons. So that's the pigeonhole principle, roughly.
Right, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So this entire theme, like entire discussion session, will be based on pigeonhole principle. So so I'll just write the statement in case you don't know. I'll write a generic statement. Okay. What I told was a very simple example. So say you have n boxes and say greater than nq pigeons. Okay. And you want to place the pigeons in the boxes, then there is a box with at least q plus 1 pigeons. Yeah, this can be proved very easily. Contradiction you can do. Like suppose if you have at most q pigeons in each box, then number of pigeons will be nq in total. But you have more than nq pigeons, so that's the contradiction. Yeah. So yeah, this is your general statement of pigeonhole principle. Okay. So so this is a slightly tougher problem. So say you say you're given sorry, there's some yeah, sorry. Yeah. So say you have the set of integers 1 to 2n and you take n plus 1 distinct integers from this set. Then you'll have two numbers such that one will divide the other. So try to prove this using pigeonhole principle. Like the pigeonhole principle will come into the play at some point of the proof, but try to come up with a proof. Better I'll give you say 2 minutes, maybe yeah, say 2 minutes I'll give you to think about this problem. In meantime, if you have any doubt regarding the question or something, you can ask me. Yeah, so could someone come up with a solution for this problem?
Yeah, I've got one solution. We'll
Yeah.
divide the set from 1 to 2n into two parts, from 1 to n and then from n plus 1 to 2n. Now the set
Okay.
from n plus 1 to 2n is just the first set into 2. Like n plus 1 would be 1 into 2. Like it will have like
Uh, how will dividing the set? Can you 1 to n then n plus 1 to 2n, right?
right, sir. Yeah, so
But
we'll
the odd numbers in the second set won't be a double of the first one, right?
oh yes, right. This is can I rethink it?
Yeah, you can rethink. Meanwhile, did someone else come up with a result? Yeah, so could anyone else come up with any kind of approach, or you can just speak out like whatever you're thinking in your mind for this problem?
I mean, I'm thinking like we can partition this into an odd numbers and even numbers, and then take, I mean, proof by contradiction that this should be true, but that proof is something I'm struggling with.
Let me give you a hint, like instead of directly going into the solution. Um, so how does a number look like basically? Like when you do a prime factorization or like how can you represent every number? Like um, say if you I'm just giving an example. So the number 12 is there, right? So it's nothing but 3 into 2 to the power 2. Similarly, if you take a number, say 16, it's like 1 into 2 to the power 4. If you take a number, say 5, 5 is nothing but 5 into 2 to the power 0. Like, so you can see that every number can be represented in the form. I'll write it here. So this hint you can say. So any number k can be represented in the form some qk times 2 to the power some random what can be the index, it can be anything, some 2 to the power I. Okay, so where this qk is an odd number and I is some natural number greater than, sorry, some number greater than or equal to 0. So your every number can be represented in this form. Now try to use this as an hint and try to come up with a pigeonhole principal argument for this problem here. So could someone come up with any argument for this thing? Okay, if not, then I'll continue. So, so when you choose a number k from this set 1 to 2n, then as I told you can represent k in this form. Now, what are the possible values of this qk? This qk can take values between like 1, 3, 5, 7 up to 2n minus 1. Okay, means like it belongs to this set. Okay, so what is the cardinality of this set? The cardinality of this set is n. N is the cardinality. So if you're choosing n plus 1 numbers from this set 1 to 2n, then you will have two numbers, say two numbers k1 and k2, such that this qk1 2 to the power some i1 and like k1 will be this and k2 will be this, such that your qk1 will be equal to qk2. This is due to pigeonhole principle, because if you're choosing n plus 1 numbers, then each number has an odd number associated with it, and it can be coming from this set, which has a cardinality of n. So two numbers should have the same odd number, qk. So you have this thing, then just assume. So just assume that k1 is less than k2. Then you have k2 by k1 equal to 2 to the power i2 by 2 to the power i1. So this is clearly divisible. So this implies there will exist two numbers such that one of them divides the other. So these are rough proof of this question. So can someone confirm whether they understood the solution or not? Hello, am I audible?
Can you please go through it once more? No,
Like which part did you didn't understand?
after you selected the like you defined cardinality. After that, I missed it a little bit. Yeah.
So, okay. So I'm just telling that if you took n plus 1 numbers from the set 1 to 2n, then for each such number, look at its qk. Like qk is the odd part of that number.
Yes.
Now, the number of possible values which this qk can take is n, like n different numbers it can take. But we are choosing n plus 1 numbers from this set. So there should be two numbers, say k1 and k2, such that its odd part turns out to be same. So by that I mean they should, so it can happen that for k1 is like 3 to the power 2 cube, and maybe for k2 it's 3 into 2 to the power 5. So this odd part for both of those numbers turn out to be same. So there will be two such numbers because of pigeonhole principle. Because you have n plus 1 numbers, but only n different possibilities. So that's why you will have two numbers whose odd parts are same. So the odd parts cancel out, and the 2 to the power just they divide each other. So that's why you have two such numbers such that one of them divides the other. So is it clear now?
Yeah. Now it's clear.
And
Yeah.
if n equal to 3, then you have to choose 4 number, right? So then if you take 3, 4, 5, 6, none of them divide.
Which one? Which one?
If n
So
is equal
you mean,
to 3.
okay, if n is equal to 3, then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. And you choose 3 plus 1, 4 numbers.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, I got it. I got it.
Yeah, they will be there. Such numbers will be there. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. So say if you have chosen this as the set, then you have 3 into 2 to the power 0, and this has 3 into 2 to the power 1. So you have this odd component same for both. So you can divide these two numbers. So that's the rough logic behind this. Yeah. Okay. Just wondering whether this question will have time to cover or not. Okay, let's go. Just I'll change the subscripts 1 second. So I'll explain this question once. So say you are given a sequence of n different real numbers, and the cardinality, like the number of such numbers, is say some greater than. Just a second. So it's greater than SR plus 1. Okay, greater than or equal to SR plus 1. So what I claim is that A should have an increasing subsequence of S plus 1 terms or a decreasing subsequence of R plus 1 terms. Now let me explain what I mean by that. Say I wrote randomly, I write numbers 1, 5, 2, 7, 9, 3, 4, 100, 10. So how many numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now let me write another number. Say 0. So I write this thing. So what an increasing subsequence means is that you pick up numbers like this, like 1, 2, 3, 4. So you write it down sequentially, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is called an increasing subsequence. So what a subsequence is, you choose some numbers and delete the remaining numbers, and then write in the same order in which they arrived in the original sequence. So if now this sequence of numbers is increasing, then you call it increasing subsequence. And if it is decreasing, then you call it as decreasing subsequence. Yeah. So we have, say, if you say 110, 0, 110, 0, then this is a decreasing subsequence. So what this theorem is, what this thing claims is that you give me any sequence of n different real numbers. So either you'll have an increasing subsequence of say S plus 1 terms, or you'll have a decreasing subsequence of R plus 1 terms. So that's what this is trying to claim. Okay. So at least can someone confirm whether the question itself is clear or not? Can someone confirm whether the question is clear or not? If there's any problem with the question, you can just ask me to repeat it. No, it's not an issue.
S and R can be arbitrarily fixed, right?
Yeah. So S and R are some positive numbers, natural numbers you can assume. So you can assume that there are two numbers S and R such that, like, basically suppose you fix S and R and then you choose N. Okay. Then this thing holds. So S and R are some positive numbers. So is the question at least clear?
Yes, it is.
What about others? Like, is it clear? Can someone confirm?
Yes, well.
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know. This is a bit not tough question, but yeah, like it will be like if I wait for you to think and all, then it will be a bit time consuming. So I'll walk you through the solution. Okay. So say we are given, as I was saying, A1, A2, up to AN. Okay. So we are given this solution, this sequence. So we are given this sequence. And formally what do we want is we want some numbers, say AI1. Either we want this like AI1, AI2, say AIS plus 1, or we want A1, AI1, AI2, not I, maybe say J, AJ, R plus 1. So these are all subsequences of this sequence. Okay. So either this should be increasing or this should be decreasing. Either one of them, if we get, we are fine. So what we want to show is an existence of such subsequence. Okay. So what we can do. So we have this sequence, right? A1, A2, A3 up to AN. So what we can do, we can for each such number, we can assign a tuple x1, y1, x2, y2, and xn, yn. So let me define what this xi and yi is. So xi defines the length of the. By length, I mean the number of numbers in the subsequence. So the length of the longest increasing subsequence ending at AI. So what it means is that basically it means this. So if you look at this part of the sequence, A1 to AI, then what is the longest subsequence, longest increasing subsequence which ends at AI? So that's what is Xi. And similarly, Yi will be the length of the longest decreasing subsequence starting at AI. So now say if you look at this sequence AI to AN, so in this, what is the longest decreasing subsequence which starts at AI? So these are the two numbers which we will be maintaining. Okay. So for this we have x1, y1. And then we continue and we have xn, yn. Okay. Now so we can observe two facts like so. So this won't be equal to xj comma yj if I is not equal to j. So what I mean by not equal to, it means that they will differ in at least x or at least y. So for example, 1 comma 2 is not equal to 3 comma 2 because they differ in this first position. Now the why is that a reason? suppose assume that for some not equal to j, we have xi comma yi equal to xj comma yj. Okay. So what does that mean? So just a second. Okay, so for sake of simplicity, let's assume I is less than j. Yeah, just for the sake of simplicity, let us assume I is less than j. So, and let's also assume, just you'll get an idea. Let's assume that ai is less than aj. Okay. Now, so what does it say? It says that the longest. Okay, so we have xi equal to xj, which implies that longest increasing subsequence ending at ai has same length as that of longest increasing subsequence ending at aj. So that's what this statement means. So it means that we have some numbers, say like, so we have this sequence AI1, AI2, so on, and the last number is AI. So and its length is xi. Okay, but now observe that we assume that AI is less than aj. Okay, so we can add aj to this sequence. So we'll have this new sequence. And its length will be xi plus 1. But we assume that xi is equal to xj. But we are getting a sequence which is greater than xj. And xj was the length of that longest increasing subsequence which ends at aj. So clearly we have some problem. So it means that our initial assumption that for some I not equal to j, xi comma yi being equal to xj comma yj was false. So this is a false assumption. So for any I not equal to j, we have xi comma yi not equal to xj comma yj. So once we show this, then the proof is kind of done actually. Like why I say it's kind of done. So we have all this xi's, yi's. And all these are different tuples, okay, different from each other. So there can be, okay. So if you take this, so if you take this as yi, okay, and maybe take this as xi, and you start like dividing it into n parts. So this first, okay, so maybe you can consider it like this. So this box will denote the pair 0, 1, 0. This will denote 2, 0, and so on. And this will denote like um, like maybe you have like 1, 1, 1, 2, and maybe you have a special thing reserved for 0 also. So maybe 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, and so on. So you'll have like all these possibilities. So what you can do is actually, okay, so the proof might be a bit difficult to understand. So maybe what you can do, like after the talk ends, I'll give you a material also which you can refer, but I'll finish the proof quickly. So okay, so okay. So say like these all xi's and yi's, they take different values. So as I was saying, they take n different values. Okay. Okay. N different values. And each of these values, this particular part denotes the length of an increasing subsequence. And this part denotes the length of an decreasing subsequence. Okay. So yeah, I'm just presenting a simpler version of the proof. So if you take like say if you take length, so if you take those subsequence which have length, increasing length at most r, and maybe those subsequences which have uh, decreasing subsequence whose length is at most s, then how many different tuples can you form? Like you can form at most SR tuples. Like what I mean, say let R is equal to 10 and say S is equal to say 5. Then what I mean is how many tuples can you form such that xi is less than equal to I and yi is less than equal to s. So it will be 10 into 5. There will be 50 different tuples which you can form. Now, what I told was your n is basically greater than SR plus 1. Okay. So it means so greater than equal to SR plus 1. So it means that say if n is 51, then you have all the different tuples x1, y1, x2, y2 up to xn, yn. So the number of different tuples which satisfy this condition is 50. So it means that there will be one tuple such that either xi will be greater than s or yi will be greater than r. So that's the rough idea. So what does xi greater than s means? So there is a subsequence whose length is more than s. And similarly, there is a, if this condition holds, there is a subsequence which is greater than r. So I get that this proof can be a bit difficult to explain also. So what I'll do, I'll I'll drop a material also. So where the proof is explained, but the proof will be explained in a similar way. So you can take your time and read the proof carefully. My idea was to just take you, like give you an idea, like how to approach such difficult problems. Yeah. So I guess I will be today, like my voice is also breaking, so I'll end the session quickly. So maybe what I'll do is that I'll end with this short, cute problem instead of going through this problem. Yeah. So this problem is quite cute actually. So what we want to show is that, say if you have any positive integer n, there is a multiple of n which contains only the digits of 7 or 0. Only these two digits. So basically what I mean is, like if you take any n, you will have a multiple of n such that the digits are either 7 or 0. Only these two, nothing else. So I'll quickly go like take you through the proof. So the question, the problem is quite simple only. So you consider say n plus 1 numbers of this type: 777, 777, 777, and so on, such that this has n plus 1 digits. Okay. Okay. So there will be in total n plus 1 such numbers. Okay. Now, when you divide a number by n, you can have n different reminders. When you divide a number by n, so so now here if you have like if you have n plus 1 different numbers, then you'll have two numbers which have the same reminder. Okay. So for the sake of simplicity, like let us assume like 777 and maybe say 77, both have the same reminder. Okay. Say they are of the form n1, so some qn plus r, and this is q2r. Okay. So now when you subtract these two numbers, you get 77700 and you get n times q1 minus q2. So clearly you will have a multiple of n such that the digits are either 7 or 0. So this is a short, like cute problem. Yeah. So yeah, so this is the thing, and just I'll leave this problem, say, as an home, or like as an homework, you can say, like you can try it when you are free. So you can take a screenshot or I'll upload it. So maybe I'll write it as homework problem.
So, sir, the previous problem that will hold for any number, right? It's not like exactly 7.
Actually, it will hold for any number. I just gave it as an example, 7.
All right, all right. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it will hold for any number. If you take any number, that will hold. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so like this problem, I couldn't explain it that much cleanly, problem 3, because my voice was a bit problematic today. But I hope 1, 2, and 4 was clear. Yeah, the choice of question 3 was not right because it is a bit lengthy to explain here. But I'll upload a material which has this as a solution, which is quite clean, so you can go through it. And this homework problem is also quite simple. I'll explain it and I'll end this session. So if you take a real number x, and then for any natural number n, there is a rational number p by q, such that q is like between 1 and n, and this inequality holds. Okay, so this is the question. So I'll upload these slides also. Even you can take a screenshot. So
Excuse
this
me,
question,
Arnav.
yeah.
Is there any book that like we can you prefer like we should take up for learning number theory and combinatorics?
So I have a book for combinatorics that I'll upload it today only.
From basics, it will like guide us.
From basics.
All right, all right.
Yeah, for
Can
combinatorics
you
I have.
can
Number
you
theory I
suggest a
need
book
to
for number
search.
theory? All right, all right. Thank you.
Yeah. So number theory I have to find a book which covers it from basic. Actually, there is one book which is in general purpose book is there, but I don't know how much number theory is covered in that. But for combinatorics, I'll upload a book today itself.
Okay.
I'll upload it. And whatever I covered today is from the chapter 4. Like the chapter name is Pigeonhole Principle. So this question 3, like you can have a look through that book and try to read the proof properly. And this question solution is there in that book. You can try it on your own. And then if you don't get, then go and look in that chapter. Yeah. So I'll just 1 second. I'll show the book also. So extreme one. Yeah, this book actually. So this is the book I was talking about. So usually whatever the high school combinatorics you see, it's kind of very basic, but these guys, they take basic concepts and try to attempt some tough problems. Yeah, so you will have all basics here, and then they'll go a bit advanced and similar, like all such stuff is there. And even if someone wanted to learn pigeonhole principle, like you have it here. They'll cover basics. Like the theory will be just 2 or 3 lines, but the ideas and coming up with solutions will be a bit tricky. Like how will you apply the pigeonhole principle? That's the main key part of any proof. Once you figure out what the pigeonhole principle, how will you apply that, like what the pigeonhole principle kind of problem looks like, then it's kind of done, the problem. Yeah. So I better end the meeting here and I'll upload the slides now only. And even the book also I'll upload. Yeah. Yeah. And pardon me, like I couldn't explain it today. Like it was sudden, mostly like COVID or something. Like my parents are also having fever slightly. So yeah. So next week, Swaroop will take on like discussion session of graph theory. So do attend that. That will be like way more interesting. Actually, I should have covered the graph theory before, and then combinatorics. If I had gone, then we could have covered more easy problems actually. So maybe after graph theory, we'll come back to combinatorics part 2, where we'll see combinatorics on graph problems, which are way more cute actually. Yeah, and doesn't require that much like complicated stuff. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Arnav.
Yeah.
Get well soon, Arnav.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.